Hey, what's going on, folks? So we have a new chapter of My Hero Academia Vigilantes to go over, and while this one felt like a really short chapter, I feel like the next chapter is going to be absolutely ridiculous. But in order for us to get there, we needed this chapter to happen. So if you don't want to be spoiled about chapter 103, turn back now. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to join in on a premiere and become one of my regulars here at the bar, hit that notification bell. It's pretty fun seeing everyone pile into a premiere each week. But with that being said, let's not spend too much time outside today. Let's go grab a drink. Alright, welcome to the bar, folks. So if you didn't catch my previous review, you can check it out right here in the card above. But long story short is, at the end of chapter 102, it looked like number 6 was finally about to be apprehended by the police. The police and the vigilantes set up this huge elaborate plan to get him captured, and it worked, but in the end, this is number 6 we're talking about, and this guy is really crafty. So shiesty shit aside, let's head over to the wall and break down some crucial parts of chapter 103. Okay, folks, so this week's chapter started with number 6 being handcuffed by Tsukauchi, and like I said in the previous chapter review, the police kind of forgot that this guy can pretty much destroy his entire body and reassemble it, because what happens is he starts doing some sort of weird breathing technique, and then he melts. Like he turns into some weird venom sludge monster. And speaking of sludge monsters, if you follow me on Twitter, I made this tweet right here, and I gotta say it now, this was a little bit of a joke. I know number 6 isn't the sludge villain, but the fact that he kind of turned into that weird venom sludge guy, I had to point out the similarities. But the sludge monster was just out here stealing purses, so he's definitely not number 6. But if there was a particular reference I'd point out, it's the fact that this entire chapter was packed to the brim filled with Thanos references. I mean, number 6 even goes as far as to say Thanos' iconic line of "You shoulda aimed for the head," before reassembling and cocking back a punch that looks like a glowing infinity gauntlet again. Also, at the same time, number 6 answers our questions as to why he's able to turn into goo, and the reason why his body is like this is because half of his body now is just straight up bomber cells. So before he can follow through and actually kill Tsukauchi, Koichi fires another barrage of his shooty-go blams at number 6. This time though, number 6 has kind of caught on that they're not as strong, which means Koichi is back to not trying to murder somebody with his quirk. Though with Koichi's attacks not being as strong, it means that Koichi has a bit more control over his blasts, and as such, his shooty-go blams are actually homing in on number 6. And since the police have their guns drawn on him, he has to retreat because of Koichi's attack, because even though they're set to low impact, they still pack a little bit of a wallop. So when number 6 evacuates the building, Tsukauchi tells Koichi that their play now is to go and get All Might. And after Tsukauchi says that, the last thing that we see is Koichi blasting off into the sky as he starts to ponder about the situation at hand. You see, because down below, number 6 is standing there with his army of anonymous soldiers. So if Koichi does leave the scene of this incident, it's going to take some time for Koichi to even get to All Might. Meaning, if Koichi abandons this fight right now, that puts a lot of people's lives in jeopardy. Yeah, All Might is able to get somewhere in less than 10 seconds, but the big thing is, we don't know how far away Might Tower is from this location. We also don't know how Koichi would even get in contact with All Might. He might have to go straight to Might Tower. And because of the blackout, communications are completely jammed right now. So the possibility could be that Koichi shot high enough into the sky that he was able to get reception and send the message out to All Might. But in my opinion, the end of the chapter kind of leads us in a different direction. I mean, Koichi has a decision to make, because once those anonymous soldiers walk inside, they're gonna start blowing up that entire building, and Koichi has friends on both sides, so there was really only one thing for Koichi to do at this point. Instead of fleeing and taking to the skies and getting to Might Tower, land in front of the villain and face him head on. Cause look, if there's something that we learned about number 6 in this chapter, it's that he's completely unhinged. The vestige of O'Clock is most likely his personality disorder coming out in full force. As we see right here, he's pretty much talking to himself before, the whole image of O'Clock appears once again. So it's still up in the air that All For One has influence over number 6, but right here is a pretty concrete visual that number 6 is batshit insane. Cause 6 is constantly struggling with the fact that he has no identity. He was more or less created to do what he's doing right now. And the way that he looks like a straight up clone of All For One. I mean, right here when he's gripping his face and monologuing to the Vestige, we can't help but think that All For One definitely has a certain degree of influence on this villain. And the reason why I say All For One could still possibly be the Vestige is because in the chapter it shows us that his dissociating identity is also the thing that helps him justify his actions. Because while he's melting down, the Vestige of O'Clock helps him reason within his mind that killing a bunch of people is okay and he should let loose every once in a while. But the nail in the coffin for me to be sold on him being outright nuts is the final line that's meant to be said by the Vestige of O'Clock, but is being said by number 6 instead, using the same kind of bubbles that would be used if All For One was speaking. So yeah, my man has gone straight off the deep end. And before we theorize about what's going to happen in Chapter 104, I want to talk about Koichi. Let's look at him right here in max coloring. Does he remind you of anyone right now? In Vigilantes, Koichi has been up for several nights waiting for number 6's attack. He's emotionally and physically worn out at this point because Koichi has spent days camped out in front of the hospital, and he just got done spending most of the day dodging 4 pro heroes. And looking at the way that he approaches number 6, it's with tons of apprehension and maybe even a little bit of curiosity. I mean, the way that he drops down in front of number 6 is very intimidating, and it's the first time we see him do the iconic superhero landing. Because to be honest, there really isn't any other way that I would have accepted Koichi arriving on scene at this point. Because Koichi has never been the type of guy to land in front of a bad guy and say, "I am here." The way that he's depicted, we're meant to feel uneasy, and Koichi is 100% confronting number 6 out of his own hesitation right here. For the most part, he himself doesn't really understand why number 6 is even doing this, so if Koichi did get the call out for All Might, he's got to stall number 6's retreat, and that means challenging his nemesis to a fight. And Koichi knows that number 6 will stick around to fight him because number 6 has this inhumane grudge against Koichi, and he feels like once Koichi and Popstep are both dead, he'll be able to formulate his own identity. And I can sit here and make tons of assumptions about what Chapter 104 will entail, but I'll tell you this, we are definitely going to see a fight between number 6 and Koichi start up, with number 6 definitely wanting to give Koichi a villainous monologue beforehand. So since Koichi landed in front of number 6, it's safe to say that Koichi is going to be able to split number 6's thought processes, which means that the Anons won't be able to go in and blow up indiscriminately, because we saw that number 6 stopped controlling the Anons when he went inside, and when he went back outside, the goal was to just have the Anons go in, cause chaos, and then he would just walk in as the cleanup crew. So now that Koichi is standing in front of him, it depends on how much control he has, because if number 6 goes wild and just uses overclock to the fullest extent, we're definitely going to see some rebounding of his quirk happening. Though my big question for all of you is, do you think Koichi called for help when he shot off high into the sky like that? Because in the beginning of the story, the running gag was learning how to land, and Koichi just soared up into the sky and landed perfectly. And for the most part, this story has been about Koichi being a hero for the purest of reasons. So it comes down to the question of, do you really just call One Punch Man to show up and take down the bad guy, or do you let Koichi actually give number 6 the business? Because like I said earlier in the video, number 6 has put Koichi through some shit. The distinct parallels between number 6 and All For One are 100% there. It's just up to us to fill out the gaps. But that's gonna do it for this week's video. If you think Koichi called All Might, or if you think that he just rolled up ready to brawl, let me know in the comments down below. I'm seriously hoping in Chapter 104 we're gonna see Koichi throw down against number 6, and I hope you are too. But until next time, cheers.